Good evening. I don't know which time zone you're coming from. I know I'm coming from a time zone that's 9 hours away. The jet lag has hit me really hard because I landed yesterday, but nothing could take my energy level down because I was given this opportunity to come and speak today about Rust. No, I'm sorry. Was that a bad joke? So just show of hands. How many of you are active Java developers? Active. Okay, that's a good sign. You're in the right room. How many have you been using Java actively for at least 5 years? Raise your hand. That's also a really good sign. Using Java actively for 10 years? Very good sign. 15 years. All right, let's do a decade jump. 20 years. I'm still, wow, that's still a lot of people. 25 years. And of course, 30 years, or soon to be. And I knew which 3 hands were going to go up before I even asked the question. So welcome to today's session. Happy birthday, Java. My name is Sharat Chander. You can call me Shar if you meet me after this session in the hallway track, in the Java booth, at any of the evening activities over the course of the next 3 days. You can just call me Shar. I've been part of the Java team, and now I'm going to date myself, since December 8th of 2000. And I've played various roles on the Java team. I'm fortunate enough now to be part of the Java developer relations team. Been doing this since 2010. It is literally I've only had 2 jobs in my life. One in telco at Verizon, and my role on the Java team. And that's it. So haven't done a lot of interviewing, don't know what that's like, but I have found a purpose, as I'm sure many of you have, in this amazing technology, because the technology, it represents something much greater than the language and the platform. And I want to be able to highlight some of that journey, some of that history, because as Java comes and approaches 30 on May, what's the date? 23rd. Hey, you know your history. This is great. We want to be able to have a sense of pride around something that has shaped all of our lives, all of our careers, and then that's something that offers us value for hopefully the next 30 years and beyond. Hopefully, I will have departed and moved on to something, a bit more interesting in that horizon. I can leave some of my work and hand it off to the next generation to pick up and ensure the next 30 years are just as vibrant as the first 30. So in terms of this journey, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, in California, some of you might remember a company called Sun Microsystems. That's where I started on the Java team. And even though this predated my time in the organization, knowing about how Java's just sort of evolved, because I came from telco. We lived in an environment, as many industries did, where you were using multiple languages, multiple target deployment platforms, various power consumption and memory footprints. And that's a lot of overhead when you have to build and deploy and redeploy in various architectures and various systems. And this very important team, I'm sure you recognize one face very familiar, back in the early 90s, were working on something that was not specific to Java. They were working more on some of the server side, the hardware side of what Sun was developing. And what Sun was really known for at the time was best-in-class servers. But James and some of his fellow colleagues got extremely bored with that endeavor. And one of the founders of Sun Microsystems, Scott McNeely, you might recognize his name, did not want to lose this amazing talent, did not want to lose this incredible expertise, and gave them full liberty to work on something that they found purpose in. And James, being a very, which by the way, having an office next to James was one of the most frightening things in my career. We can get into that maybe in the pub, and I'll tell you why. But James believed that productivity was the most important thing for developers. And that's what created part of that journey to start working on Java. And so in 1991, some of you might remember the early project names for Java, but literally behind a green door in the offices in Menlo Park, at that time it was the headquarters of Sun Microsystems, they started working on what Java could be. How could it simplify all those multiple deployment environments and working on or deploying on different chip architectures, or for that matter, the different devices that are out in the world. And if you think about what your life is right now, the number of devices you sheerly touch on a day in and day out basis is incredibly large. But in that time period, we had things like set-top boxes and TVs and ticket kiosks and touchscreen interfaces. What could be one unifying technology that will allow you to build and target these multiple platforms without having to retrain your entire development teams on new methodologies, or for that matter, new architectures for work? And so behind that green door, they started working on a project called Oak. And a lot of people have asked, where did the name Oak come from? And it was literally because outside of Menlo Park, the office that they were working in the lab that we're working with, there was an oak tree, and it wasn't any sort of discussion and debate, let's take this to the lawyers for approval. It was literally called Project Oak, just a project name at that time. And that's how that name stuck for many years. Now, what was Oak trying to do? Like we said, it was all about a device-centric world. And one of the first use cases for Java to show its power was on a device called the Star 7. Now, the Star 7, if you have to remember now, in 1992, this was revolutionary. This was game-changing. A touchscreen console that could interact with other devices to give instructions, to give execution, or take action, all through a touchscreen, sending signals to the other devices to take that action. And if you ever get a chance to visit California, I highly encourage you to visit the Computer History Museum in San Jose. Some of the early Star 7 devices are still there. Pretty inspiring. I wish I kept mine. That would have been great. I could probably sell it on eBay and pay for my daughter's college tuition that's coming up in a couple of months. But no, this device was literally game-changing because you could actually visually see what the power of a language and a platform can do. Now, on this device was an agent, an interactive agent that you would interact with on the screen. And some of you might recognize who that is. So the agent was originally known as Fang. Does anyone know where Fang may have come from? Any ideas? It looks like I heard it. It looks like a tooth. But that wasn't very inspiring in terms of a naming convention to give as a mascot for the interactive agent on the screen. So it became known as Duke. Now, I don't have the history. I've asked James many times, how did Duke get the name Duke? Because Duke is meant to be gender agnostic, but the name conveys a male presence. But truly, Duke is gender neutral. And there's the original design of one of the first agents that was supposed to be interacting on the screen. Kind of reminds me a little bit of an AI-generated robot from these days, a little bit in pencil format, but you can see sort of like how they took that inspiration from that robot concept to something that was more focused on a character. Now, Duke itself was designed by one of the engineers at Sun Microsystems who went on to work at Pixar and worked on many of the Disney animated films. And so that's where the inspiration for the character came from, was looking at companies like Disney that had characters that were highly recognizable that could be then translated into something that was emotional to the people that engaged with it. And so Duke stuck around. And of course, that very momentous day in 1995, when Java was released on May 23rd, was literally the foundation of the technology you all see and use today. That was a springboard on that date. And what a great way to actually introduce Java to the world was through the introduction of the first inaugural Java 1. And that's literally how I started my path on Java. Verizon sent me to this conference. We were working in our offices at that time, west on 7th Avenue in Midtown Manhattan. And the lead architect's like, we need to go learn this. Someone is, through the information stream we're getting from the West Coast, this thing called Java. We need to go and explore what this is. And I have to tell you, Java 1 is literally the blueprint of almost every technical conference, whether vendor-specific or third-party, that we all now attend and participate in, just like Devoxx UK. What made Java 1 so unique? It wasn't just the classroom formats of sessions from one to many. It wasn't the hands-on labs where you can interact and participate in creating something unique. It wasn't like the hackathons at that early days before the notion of a hackathon, what that even meant. It was also the inclusion of something that's so integrally important to why Java is successful, and that's community. And we'll focus on the community dimension of what gives life and a heartbeat to Java. Now, multiple releases over the years. Java grew, it expanded. We had multiple releases over that horizon. And you can actually see the evolution of our Java logo, which is the actual logo for the technology and the platform. And then Duke is the mascot to the community. I have to be honest, I actually like the original logo from 1995, but the reason why it actually evolved and you see more of a simplistic graphic is because, well, on the internet, on websites, the original logo is very hard to render in such complex line formats. So it was simplified into more of what we refer to, if you ever hear it in the industry, it's called the cup and steam. If you're the cup and steam, that's the Java logo, that represents the technology, and Duke, of course, represents all of you, the community. Now, we can debate about Java's popularity over the last 30 years, whether it's first, second, third, where does it rank? But in terms of its entire horizon, it's always sort of been in that very top spot. And obviously there are other language choices for very obvious reasons that might sometimes be ahead of Java in terms of number of developers or use cases or usage. But that's okay. It occupies a very important pivotal point for a very large developer ecosystem of over 10 million developers. And that's a conservative estimate about how many of you are actually out there. It's become almost a phenomenon beyond itself, besides developers. It's been introduced in so many public, non-technical, more commercial formats like the show Silicon Valley. I'm sure some of you have watched that. It's been referenced multiple times on The Big Bang Theory. It's been a quiz question on Jeopardy, I think seven times. That shows you just the power of what the brand is and what it can do. When you go from technical to mainstream society, it just shows you just how important it is. And I have to be very honest. Part of this is also, although it's a superpower of Java, it's also a bit of our kryptonite. Because if we don't continue talking about its value, if we don't continue talking about the importance of contributions, if we don't talk about how open development is one of the important dimensions of what makes Java possible, where it includes your participation and inclusion, we lose the value of what it represents to something much more meaningful. Now, Java's value has spanned many devices from I don't know if you realize this, but many of you are probably carrying a credit card in your wallet. When you do the tap and pay, there's probably a small Java card implementation running on that credit card. You probably interacted with a kiosk at an airport or a train station. The likelihood there's Java running on that kiosk. You've probably interacted with a smart printer where it's sometimes headless, no interaction or a touchscreen involved. That's probably running on Java. Many manufacturing plants, for example, we had Mazda at one of our past events. Mazda's enterprise manufacturing facility in Hiroshima, the assembly line runs on Java. And you can just see how popularity has grown in terms of where Java is in terms of deployments, both on devices and in the cloud. And it's important to recognize that Even though the numbers are large and the numbers are great, it's not a reason to stop the investment. Because if we want Java to move forward, we have to ensure there's a balance between innovation and maintenance. And this has always been a principle for us on the Java team, is where do we go in terms of the bleeding edge? How do we release new features that we expect to have longevity for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years or beyond? Once you make it part of the standard, it's going to be there for a very long time. But at the same time, retain certain things like security, stability, backwards compatibility. And many developers don't realize just how complex a decision-making that is to keep both sides in balance. We're oftentimes the most loved person in the room. We're also sometimes the most hated person in the room. But it's a good target for us to have on our back. All too often, we'll get the question, why can't you just? And I'm sure you've probably heard that in your enterprise, or you've gone to a session, or you've asked someone at another company who's working on a project, why can't you just do whatever it is that you need? If you think about it, there's tens of millions of developers, tens of thousands of businesses varying across a broad range of industries, whether that's public sector, aviation, gas and mining, manufacturing, e-commerce, you name it, they're running Java. So all of those have unique use cases. So the why can't you just is not necessarily a question that is always addressable. We need to take into account what is the best thing we can do based on how environments are shifting in terms of chip architectures, in terms of power consumption, in terms of new development models like cloud and AI and other dimensions that are now surfacing on our radar. We need to keep all of that in balance as best we can. Because whether you're on, you should all be on Java 24, by the way, or something older, we want you to be able to take your workloads and just run it on the most current version of Java that's out there. And that takes a Herculean effort from very thoughtful people back on our development team. So we have not rested on our laurels. Oftentimes when someone says, oh, Java's 30 years old, is it old or is it 30 years young? Or does it still have more value? And what we've been trying to do, especially over the last 5 years, we continue to release many new features, things that are making the language more approachable, readable, writable, maintainable. That creates opportunities for you as a developer because the less lines of code you have to write, that's less maintenance that you have to then invest in as an enterprise. And guess what? That has a cost associated to it. That's an important dimension. Another dimension is Java's always been great at optimizing code, but we live in a data-centric world. So how do we do and address data-driven development? And so we've been making those investments as well, and some of the features you see here have been highlighted in terms of making that as a first-class citizen. And then, of course, ensuring that that promise of performance, stability, and security is always paramount in every release that we do. And we offer features along the way that ensures the integrity of the language and the platform. And of course, things that are just coming up in the future. Like many people have had this debate. Python versus Java. Oh my God, why isn't Java more focused on pure just AI development? And I think it's a red herring of a question. Because we want Java to address all types of application development. So what do we do on the engineering team? We look at what are the challenges for specific application development and try to solve those problems and see where they're inherently overlapped in all different types of app dev situations. And I have to say, what has got us to this point of Java's popularity, it's actually something that many of you articulated 7 years ago was probably not our best decision, but we've sort of pivoted the thinking on this. Ever since we went from a 2 to 3 year release model to something that's more incremental, where you're not getting a collection of big bang changes all at once, but drip feeding innovation when it's ready allows adoption to accelerate in organizations. And so, trust me, even on the Java team, we weren't sure if we were able to do this. We had to have the build systems in place. We had to have the release model system in place. We had to work with our customers so they can understand the value, and as well, of course, our ecosystem. But this has been one of the most important accelerators in terms of Java adoption. Giving new features when they're ready, when they're securely tested, when they're available, and introducing things like early access builds, so you can get access before it's even available. Java 24, which we just shipped in March, we already have early access builds for Java 25 available for you to start beginning to test on before it becomes available in September. We have preview features. It allows you to give us that feedback. Even though we consider it complete, we want to understand, has it met all of the critical needs of as many of your use cases as possible? So it gives you a chance to give input. The more we allow you to participate in the development of Java, the better value it's going to offer you when it becomes available. And it's a testament when we see the numbers. I mean, Java truly is on a continued renaissance for the last decade, if not longer. 30 years of innovation. It continues to be an important choice across the board for enterprises around the world. If you look at any industry, most likely it's a Java shop, small, medium, or large. And what's important is that innovation pipeline. We have this saying that Java has last leader advantage. And you can say, some of you might say, well, why is being last a leading position? Well, because we get a chance to look and evaluate the marketplace. Look at how other languages are trying to address maybe something that's cutting edge or niche. And we get to evaluate whether that makes sense to bring into the language or bring into the platform. Because again, if we build it and put it in and standardize it, it's going to be there for at least the next decade, if not longer. So we want to ensure the value integrity of what we're doing. So, like I said, Java's everywhere, every industry. Some of you may have taken Uber to come to the conference today. Uber is a Java shop. Some of you were probably up like me because I had jet lag watching Netflix. Netflix is a Java shop. Maybe you're having your conversations on LinkedIn or looking for that next Java opportunity. LinkedIn is a Java shop. And there's so many more examples of companies, small, medium, large, named companies, unnamed companies that you may not recognize that are truly have embraced Java in terms of its success. But let's not forget the importance of, beyond the technical investments we're making, it's the investment in the community. And I have been doing this now for over 10 years. And this is one of the, I did not innovate this mantra, but a very good colleague of mine came up with this, and I continue to use it, which is, at the foundation of what makes Java so successful is we treat people first and the technology second. What do we mean by that? We need to first understand who you are. What are your needs? What are your wants? What are your likes? What are your dislikes? What are your fears? What are your uncertainties? What are your doubts? What are you trying to achieve? Where are you trying to go? That's a human dimension. And before we even start talking about how to build something in terms of language enhancements or improving the performance of the platform, we need to know more about you. And that's why we invest so much in terms of our outreach to ensure all of our community endeavors are enriched so we can nurture those relationships authentically and honestly. And sometimes there will be spirited debates in terms of what you want to do and what we're capable of doing. But it's okay to have something where we give you a platform to at least speak and engage with us than doing things in a closed, siloed environment. So we want you to always have this notion of being inspired by what we build, but also looking at all your peers in the ecosystem and learn and innovate through their innovation. Be connected. As I walked in this room, and I'm actually happy this happened, typically when I've come to DevOps UK, I probably know in any session I've given, maybe 60%, conservatively speaking, of the people in the room. This year, I would say it's more like 20%. And that's a great signal, because that means we're expanding and making the ecosystem much more inclusive in terms of participation. And I want to see that number go further down. That means we have this new generation of developers coming in. And maybe when I pose that question in the beginning again, how many years you've been using Java, we'll see more hands raised and stayed up with 5 years versus 15 or 20. Now, how do we do this? There are absolutely some foundational programs we've been investing over the years. First and foremost is our OpenJDK community. This is literally the place where Java is developed. And all too often, many of us on the Java team will get questions like, what's the secret sauce? Or, what trick do you have up your sleeve in terms of how Java is innovated? And the reality is there is no secret trick. It's all done transparently out in the open with your participation. Yes, your participation. You can actually help shape the future of Java by being part of the OpenJDK project. It should be rather easy, openjdk.org. At the bare minimum, look at the various areas of innovation that we're working on and follow the mailing lists, because the more knowledgeable you are, the more influential position you have in your company to make decisions about how to utilize Java in the work and the applications that you're building. But if you want to get a bit more aggressive, and we welcome aggressiveness, is you can also participate in contributing. And we have various contributory roles that you can evaluate at openjdk.org. And we welcome it and encourage it. And in fact, every release of Java that we do, in our launch blog, we highlight all of the community contributions by company, and we call out significant contributions by individuals and organizations. Because it's important for us to acknowledge that while we are doing the lion's share of the work in terms of the innovation and the development, there's a community behind us who's also equally cutting wood and carrying water to ensure that Java stays vibrant. Something that I'm extremely passionate about, because this is where my journey started, was Java user groups. You say, well, what's the importance of user groups? I mean, in principle, we all know what it can do, but I'm looking at it through my lens. Back in 1995, 1996-ish, when I was just learning about Java, after going to Java 1 in 1996, coming back to New York, it's like, we didn't live in a world of online information at your fingertips where you can just look up things and, oh, it's right there. We would have to have conversations. And in fact, I still believe having conversations is sometimes more effective than just doing a search, because you learn so much more during the physical interaction, the face-to-face interaction, the discussions, the debates, the disagreements. We learn so much more in that format. And the very first Java user group in the world, does anyone know? Raise your hand if you know what was the first Java user group in the world. I know you know the answer. That's not fair. But you raised your hand, and you're the only one who raised your hand. So go ahead, Jose. No. Okay. Folks, this is my colleague, Jose Pumard, who's one of the Java developer advocates I am so delighted and lucky to work with. And I applaud you for at least trying to answer the question. But the very first Java user group on the planet was the New York Java Special Interest Group, known as the Java SIG. And I went there for a meeting, must have been at least 20, 25 people, mostly people from telco and finance, considering we're in New York, coming there to literally discuss and debate and talk about what is Java, how do we use it. And that put me on this path of, I have so many other people that I can learn from. Knowing how we may not work in the same industry, but use cases and best practices span cross-industry. And that became my platform to wanting to be more participative in Java, especially in the community. There's another important group that's critical that I highlight. And those are Java champions. And I see a couple in the room. Whether you're in emeritus status or active, if you're a Java champion, could you please stand up real quick? Okay, folks, these people are independent voices of Java who speak authentically around the world to share their knowledge with developers just like yourself. And this year, we have a little over 400 in the program, and they are independent from Oracle, but while we manage the program, we trust them that they are going to shepherd Java on our behalf in an honest and authentic fashion. And these people they don't oftentimes get enough credit for what they do to ensure that we have greater adoption of Java around the world. Oftentimes it's a thankless job. We try to highlight them best as we can when they become part of this important program. but for sure they deserve our appreciation, especially from the Oracle and the Java team. I just want to give a personal thanks to all of you, which, by the way, we need to start increasing those numbers. This program has been in existence since 2005. There are only 406 in the world. I'd like to see that number, double. I love aggressive goals. But it's a matter of showcasing yourself, coming and speaking at conferences, giving highlights at a user group, advocating for Java inside your company. Just having that authentic knowledge and experience position is fundamental dimensions of what makes a Java champion stand out from the overall ecosystem. And of course, there's so many more other programs as well. And as I said, our fundamental programs, Java user groups and Java champions, continues to evolve. Just this past 6 months, we've added 4 new user groups. We're now numbering 370. I can't believe I'm going to get this wrong. 372, 370. I'll have to go back and do the math again. But 372 localized Java user groups where you can find peers of like mind to discuss and debate Java with at a local level. You're probably in proximity to one, to your city, to your region, to your country. We don't have a Java user group yet in Antarctica. I think that's a great stretch goal. I'm working on it. Maybe you can help me on that dimension. I would like to give a shout out to any Java user group member or leader who's in the UK. The user groups, and there's multiple ones, from Manchester to the LJC to one in Dublin, and so many more. They keep the active voice in this region buzzing and humming, and I just want to say a thank you to all the leaders that are out there, because I see a couple of you. So thank you very much. Oh, Nick, is that Nick? Nick Evatt from the Manchester Java user group. He runs the local user group in Manchester. So Nick, thank you for all your help. If you want to find one, I will talk a little bit about how you can discover where those user groups are. And of course, Java champions. Just this past 6 months, we added 5 new members, but it should be 7, because just on Monday, we announced 2 new two new Java champions just this Monday that we now have to include in the program, get them their Java champions jackets, and start promoting their content more with greater veracity to include with other Java champions. So as I've sort of highlighted, we have a lot of programs for engagement and participation, but fundamentally, we also want to continue to learn. So we need to have a lot of robust content. And where were my peers in the back, our advocates? I think there was Andres, there was David Delabase, there was Jose Pumard, some of my peers on the Oracle team. They are so instrumental in some important programs that I hope are easy for you to bookmark on your browser. The first is dev.java. Dev.java is our all-encompassing portal for learning information tutorials based on various skill levels. Jose is one of the most voracious publishers of tutorials, depending on your expertise level. It's also the place where you can go and discover all the information about our community programs, like user groups, like Java champions, like Java conferences. If you're trying to understand where are these events happening, both in person or around the world, we have a calendar of events. Java Day, if your organization or your company ever wants our team to come out and give your company a one-day summit about the innovations and features around Java that are coming up, or something that's important to you, whether it's security, something that's related to language enhancements, we can do that. You can find out information, contact us, and we will literally come to your company, either virtually or in some cases in person, to do a summit for your team. You don't have to be, in contact with me directly. If you have other connections in the Java organization, feel free to reach out to them. Eventually, it'll funnel back to myself and my peers, and we will be more than happy to assist you. Inside.java is actually extremely unique. One of the challenges with learning is that notion of discovery. And I know you can go to your browser choice and look things up, but we want to make this easy for you. So inside.java is our aggregation of all the technical publications, recordings, podcasts that the Java team at Oracle builds and contributes. So you can get the voice from our engineers themselves in terms of innovation and advancements we are making on a specific feature or a specific release. And of course, our newest incarnation of utilizing the Java TLD is Learn.java. And this is targeting students and teachers to pave the on-ramp for the next generation of developers with content that fits their needs, their level, to ensure that they can join and participate in this journey with us together. Now, none of this is possible by just one person. I can't be more grateful and more thankful for the team that I've been able to be part of since 2010. And the team membership has changed and fluctuated, but this is their current team. These people are oftentimes the thankless heroes of why Java remains vibrant. All of the tutorials you might see on our official YouTube channel, youtube.com/Java, comes from these amazing human beings. All of the social content that you see sometimes online, whether that's on LinkedIn or, am I allowed to still say Twitter? I can say that? Regina, tell me. No? I'm going to say it anyway. Twitter or Blue Sky or other platforms, it comes from these thankless heroes. Whether it's when they come to your local meetup or giving sessions at conferences. For example, we have some of our advocates who are giving, both Andres and Jose gave sessions or are giving sessions here at Devoxx. They are your connections as well. So I encourage you, whenever you see any of them online or in person, strike up of a conversation because they actually do care. They will invest the time to stay connected with you to nurture that relationship so you remain an active part of our Java community. And as I said, it all is about you. Java would not have started had it not been for the participation of developers like yourself, myself when I was able to go to Java 1 in 1996, and just be part of this participation process. As much as we do on our engineering team to develop the language and to develop the platform, it's all of you and your participation that keeps Java so vibrant. So if we want Java to have a horizon for 30 years and beyond, I'm going to need all of you to continue to join me on this journey. And when I'm ready to hand that baton off, hopefully one of you will grab it from me and run faster than I ever could. Before we close out, there's just two comments I wanted to make. One is I'd like to say thank you to Simon Ritter. He was a source of inspiration for this presentation in many ways. Simon Ritter was one of the original Java evangelists who was a peer of mine when I was at Sun Microsystems that helped give visibility to Java. He's an active member in the Java ecosystem. He's a Java champion, and he's a frequent speaker around the world, both in person and online. And if it wasn't for his partnership, this presentation would not happen because he was actually there at Sun on the Java team before I arrived. And he sort of took me under his wing, and I got to apprentice under him a little bit, and we've maintained a professional relationship that's now become very personal. And I just want to say, Simon, I wish you were here today, so thank you so much for being an inspiration for me. But in closing, I'd like to say thank you to all of you, and the best way I can say thank you is because you came to this session, you made time out of your day, out of a rich catalog of session opportunities. I'm extremely grateful that you came to this. If you come down with me to the Java booth, we have commemorative Java 30th anniversary t-shirts for all of you, because you are here. And it's just our way of continuing to say thank you for what you do for keeping Java vibrant. So with that, I'd like to say thank you so much. I just want to give you a time, an opportunity to now probably go grab that pint, and I don't want to be that barrier, or stop you from getting a Java shirt. So if you can join me, I'm going to close up, and you can meet me and my colleagues down in the booth to grab your t-shirt. I don't even have one, by the way. Thank you so much.